Good morning. My name is Bonita Pruitt. I am the Gender Equity Compliance Officer, Title IX Coordinator here at Kent State University. One of my responsibilities, we are out of the Office of Compliance, Equal Opportunity, and Affirmative Action. One of my responsibilities is to ensure that we train our faculty or educate our faculty, staff, and students on Title IX, what it is, how to recognize it, and then what is your responsibility when it comes to Title IX. And as we go along, I'm going to give you some definitions that you need to recognize when you see gender discrimination, gender-based discrimination. Let me see if I can do this, yeah. Gender-based discrimination, sexual assault, sexual misconduct, stalking, intimate partner violence, and sexual harassment. Again, part of our responsibilities out of the Office of Compliance here at Kent State University, and my role as the Title IX coordinator, is to ensure that all of our faculty, staff, and students are aware of what Title IX is and what their rights and responsibilities are according to that. We have passed out a flyer that is for our student-led facilitator trainings. It is an hour long. I ask that you post that. We do have facilitator-led trainings also for faculty and staff as well. These are some definitions you need to know. Title IX, you've been hearing about Title IX, Title IX. Title IX has been in the news. Title IX was recently mentioned in the Olympics. It does cover gender equity, but basically what Title IX is, it prohibits sex discrimination based on gender. And these are definitions you need to know. And Kent State has a policy. It is our 5-16.2 policy, which prohibits discrimination based on sex. And some of these definitions that I'm going to go over briefly, gender discrimination and harassment, how to recognize it when you see it. And I'll give you a little bit of update on the end to let you know once you've recognized it, then what are your responsibilities when it comes to gender-based harassment? If you know or you yourself have experienced sexual assault, sexual misconduct, or sexual harassment. Gender discrimination is institutional, and it is based on gender. It could include gender identity, transgender identity, and pregnancy. And it severely impacts an individuals in their academic performance and in their employment performance. Sexual harassment is unfavorable and it is unwelcome treatment. It's made without consent, and it creates a hostile and offensive work environment. And it could include sexually explicit jokes, obscene pictures, offensive written and electronic communications, and unwelcome touching and leering. And one thing that we do in our office, we do investigations when it comes to Title IX, gender-based discrimination. And in our office, a lot of what we see with our students has to do with text messaging, inappropriate pictures, inappropriate videos, inappropriate emails. And usually when we're doing our investigations, we ask for that information. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. But again, that's what basically sexual harassment could cover. Sexual misconduct, we deal a lot of this with our investigations as well within our office. It includes rape and sexual assault. It's intentional sexual contact, touching, and it's made without consent. It could include sexual misconduct with penetration, what we call rape, sexual exploitation, or knowingly transmitting a sexual disease. Intimate partner violence. It includes domestic violence and dating violence. What we see a lot of in our office when we're doing our investigations, we see a lot of dating violence. Dating violence is an act of intimidation. It could be threatening, and it could be committed by a person in a social relationship, or it can be in a romantic or an intimate relationship. Stalking, that's something that has gotten very huge when it comes to educational institutions, higher educational institutions. It's usually directed at a specific individual, And it causes a person to fear for themselves and fear for their safety. And then what we see too is when we're doing our investigations, we usually see the individual who's stalking will be meeting the person or waiting for an individual after class or in the library or in the student center. They could be sending constant text messages, constant emails, constant videos to the individual. It could be intimidating and it could be threatening. So we want to make sure that our students recognize this behavior. We want to make sure that you recognize it. So if someone comes to you based on some of these incidences, then we want you to let you know what your responsibility is under Title IX. Consent. This is something that we talk a lot about or go into detail in our hour-long facilitator-led trainings, because this is something that, again, when we're doing our investigations, consent and alcohol contributes to 90% of our investigations. The person failed to give consent. The person did not know whether the consent was given. So we explain what consent is and how alcohol can play an effect in that. Consent, it's a voluntary act. And then we always say, if you're unsure, then ask the person when it comes to consent. Do not assume you have consent, and we always mention that as well. Just because you've had a sexual relationship with the person yesterday doesn't mean that that person wants to have sex the next day. And incapacitation. Alcohol and drugs make a person incapable of consenting, and it is forced, threatened, and intimidated. Retaliation is a last based on our policy, and we see a lot of this as well. And retaliation is once a person has filed a complaint with our office, then the witness or the accused or one of those individuals will be subjected to retaliation. That means that maybe they may be left out on going to a meeting. It is purposeful as well. So we do make sure that everyone knows about our policy on retaliation. So in looking at these definitions, we want to make sure, that if you or someone you know is assaulted, get to a safe location or get the person to a safe location. Support. We do provide support services. In our office, when we're doing our investigations, we are very neutral when we're conducting an investigation. We give the victim the opportunity to respond, and we give the accused the opportunity to respond. So what we're going to do, if you refer someone to our office or you yourself come to our office, then first thing we're going to ask is, do you want support? We're going to refer you to our SERVS office, and that's coming up next. The next thing that we ask is if you or someone you know is assaulted, preserve the evidence. Whenever there's a rape, we ask that that person take that information and put it in a brown paper bag. That preserves the evidence, not in a plastic bag. Document, because again, what I mentioned, we give both parties the opportunity to respond. We're going to ask the 5 W's and the H, the who, what, when, where, why, and how. And we ask it of both parties. Again, we're neutral. Only thing we're trying to find out, is there a violation of a policy, is what we're looking to do. Medical care, making sure the individual does have seek medical assistance, and then report it. Our employees are mandated reporters. So if you yourself or you know of someone or one of your students come to you, we ask that you report it to our office. Now, the one thing when you come to our office, everything isn't going to go into a complaint. It's not going to, you don't have to file a complaint. The person doesn't have to file a complaint. You may just want to get some information, which is fine. We ask that you still let us know what's going on. So if one of your students come to you and say that they have something happen to them and they're not sure, we ask that you let the person know. Employees are mandated reporters. What does that mean? That means that I have an obligation to report this to the Title IX office. A lot of things have been in the news lately about Title IX, Baylor University, University of Tennessee, whereas people failed to report to the Title IX coordinator, and then they faced consequences. Those universities faced consequences. So that's why we're here. That's why I'm here, to ensure that everyone knows their responsibility when it comes to Title IX and how to recognize it. And again, we ask the person to be patient, Healing's going to take time. We're going to provide those support services, and here are the support services. We're going to refer the person to our SERVS office, which is here on campus. They provide the support services, emotional support for the individual. If they feel that it's a very traumatic experience, again, you don't have to tell them who you are, even if it's just talking to the individual. We're going to refer you there, and they're very, very supportive. We have psychological services, counseling, our psychological clinic, and we have our Town Hall 2, which is located in Kent, because sometimes an individual doesn't want anything reported to Kent State University. Town Hall 2 is located in downtown Kent. That person can be referred there. We do have licensed psychologists here on Kent State campus as well. They are not mandated reporters. They are confidential sources. Your clergy is a confidential source. So those are people who, if the individual wants to go to talk to someone but not necessarily report it, they can go to a licensed psychologist or they can go to their clergy. Reporting and filing. Again, my name is Bonita Pruitt. I'm the Title IX coordinator. Our office is located in Here Hall. We have a responsibility to ensure that everyone is aware of Title IX, how to respond if you see it, if one of your students come to you, or you yourself is subjected to sexual assault, sexual harassment, sexual misconduct, or sexual violence. These aren't always easy topics to talk about, but we want to make sure everyone is educated on here. And again, employees are mandated reporters. What does that mean? If someone comes to you or you yourself is subjected to gender-based discrimination, we ask that you report it. The university's response based on Title IX, we do put in possible remedial measures if it's two individuals. We do provide academic or housing accommodations. That means that we can change your housing accommodation, your dorm room, or your classroom. We do issue no contact orders for both individuals, the victim as well as the accused. That means that they can have no contact with each other, and that includes electronic communication as well. We do offer counseling and support and other measures as appropriate. A formal complaint. So if a person wants to file a formal complaint, the student as the respondent or the student as the victim, student to student, what we do in our office, we conduct the investigation. Once we've obtained all the information, we turn it over to the student conduct, and then there's a hearing process, and then they make the decision on the process. They make the decision on whether there was a violation or not. If the employee is the respondent, that stays in our office. We conduct the investigation in our office, and then we make the recommendations. And visitors are protected under this policy also, under our Policy 5-16.2. Visitors are protected also. But if there is a visitor on campus that is subjecting any of our students, staff, or faculty to any gender-based discrimination, then we have the response and obligation to do a P&G hearing. That is to determine whether they are allowed on our campus. And that is all. And does anyone have any questions about our Title IX process? Again, what we're saying is, even if you yourself or someone you know is subjected to gender-based harassment, sexual assault, sexual misconduct, sexual violence, we ask that you let our office know. And again, if you just want to call our office just to say, hey, I just want to find out if this is what this is, I just want some information, that's fine. Every report to our office does not turn into a formal complaint, but we need to know about it. And we're asking you, as individuals of the university, that you make sure that what Title IX is, how to recognize it, and then what your responsibility is according to it. Thank you. We do have flyers that's on the table. Again, we ask that you post those in your offices, around your buildings, as far as our facilitator-led trainings. Thank you.